What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. If we haven't met yet, I'm Dr. Marie Fang, and this is Private Practice Skills. I post videos offering tools I learned the hard way about starting and growing private practice so that you don't have to. And in today's video, I had the awesome privilege of getting to ask somebody else about their own tips and tools for starting a private practice, particularly why it's a good idea to specialize and practically how do you go about figuring out where to specialize. The guest for today is Roy Kim, who's both a licensed marriage and family therapist as well as a certified sex addiction therapist. So Roy has definitely gone all in on the specialization front. He shares some super practical tools about how to go about specializing, but I think more importantly, he shares very vulnerably about his own story, his own journey, and how that's infused into the process of specializing. So this is an awesome video. I don't want to take up any more time jibber jabbering, so let's hop into the video. So glad to have you today. My guest is Roy Kim. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and he's also a certified sex addiction therapist, which is so interesting to me. I mean, I know nothing about that, so I'm intrigued to get to know Roy a little bit more. But also, Roy, before you introduce yourself, I feel like I should tell people that we've known each other for quite some time. I want to say
what, going on 9 years maybe.
Wow. So much has happened since then. And just so folks know, we were both intern therapists at that phase of life, and we were working in the same group practice together. But at least for me, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And I always felt like Roy knew exactly what to do. But here you've also come such a long way since I first met you then, just in life and in your practice and in your interests and everything. So I'm super excited to have you on.
Yeah, I am so happy to be here too, Marie. I agree with you. We've both come a long way since those days, but those were like foundational times to build a friendship on.
So I'm so glad that we get to kind of catch up through here now too. And so, folks watching and listening can also hear bits about your journey. But I wonder if you'd like to say anything to kind of introduce yourself a little bit further beyond, some of your credentials and how we know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I became a therapist, I actually pastored for 8 years. I pastored a youth group, and then I pastored a young adult group. And I really thought that I was going to be pastoring for the rest of my life when I entered into seminary. But then, just to be quite frank, the more that I pastored, the less I wanted to pastor. And it's not a knock on pastors. It's just, I just don't think that I really could see myself continuing doing that for the long haul. I didn't have any other like career skills other than just being a pastor. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I did consult with some people that I knew, talking about certain careers that kind of piqued my interest, and therapy being one of them. If I fast forward, I went ahead and took the plunge and entered into grad school again to get my MFT education. It was life-changing, actually, for me. And there has been no turning back since then. I am a certified sex addiction therapist, and I work primarily in my practice with those with sex addiction or the partners that they betray through their behaviors. And it is a joy to work with them, even though it's heavy work. I just love what I do.
I really appreciate that you shared that background to before, like the behind the curtain before you became a therapist, because I think everyone's story is so kind of twisty, turny, and organic, and I hear from so many folks who either want to be a therapist or maybe wherever they are at in their journey, they're sort of like, well, I already did all this work and training and I'm stuck now on this trajectory.
That's a sinking feeling. It really is. I do think, though, that sometimes some risks are worth taking. And I took it, maybe because I had hit rock bottom. I don't know, but I took it, and I'm really, really glad I took that risk.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you did too. And clearly it was the right one. Yeah, you mentioned that we're going to touch on specializing today. And I think that that is so interesting to me because so much of your specialization has happened since we worked together.
Right.
Would you be willing to kind of share a little bit more of your journey? Like, first of all, even like why start thinking about specializing? Why not just follow the approach like beggars can't be choosers and whoever
Right.
wants to come see me, welcome?
During internship, uh, I didn't have much choice. When I think back on those days, um, I felt so uncomfortable with certain cases, partly because I was really green, but also partly because some cases just didn't jive well with like my soul. It wasn't the right fit for me. I remember feeling such relief when either the person said, or like maybe they no-showed several times, and maybe because they started ghosting me, or maybe there came a time where things got unhelpful for them, so we would just kind of mutually agree to terminate, and I would refer them to someone else. But I would just remember feeling a lot of relief that work with that client was over on my part. And um I felt guilty about that, and I felt like, but I shouldn't feel relief. I should feel like I should take on all comers. Um, but then after some time, and realizing certain patterns within myself, like the same types of cases gave me the same negative feelings, and I said, okay, there's got to be something to this. So I had to just start eliminating things. I whittled down from potentially 15, 20 different types of cases down to 6, 7 types of cases. But I still felt like that wasn't enough. I felt like I needed to whittle it down some more. And maybe this is serendipitous, but um, I did start having some conversations with other therapists about sex addiction, um, them asking me whether I worked with sex addiction, and I said I didn't. I had no clue how to help that. But this topic kept coming up. I looked into it. I looked into um, what it would take to learn more about this. And what I realized is that when you get the training to become a sex addiction therapist, you're also getting the training, not extensive training, but adequate training to also deal with the betrayal trauma that the partner goes through. And so that really piqued my curiosity. It resonated with me because, I had gone through my own betrayal trauma prior to, like, right at the start of grad school. I became very, very interested in learning more about this. And so I went ahead and applied, and thankfully, there was actually a minority scholarship for this program. And I applied for that as well. And I got the scholarship. So I got to do the trainings for free.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. That is such a wonderful story. And I love, first you started with the kind of process of elimination.
Mhm.
And even before arriving at the process of elimination, it sounds like you just were having this experience of like, there's clients that I'm working with that I don't really want to see. Like whenever they move on for whatever reason, there's that
Yeah, and it made me
relief.
feel bad about myself, because I was thinking I should be able to see everybody, but
Ugh,
that was
but
then, this
you're,
is now.
yeah, when you're only human, and so many therapists have that same perspective. So I'm so glad that you said that. And I love that. I mean, it sounds like the final like whittling down, so to speak, kind of knocked on your door. Like you weren't
Hmm.
going to look for, oh, is it this? Is it that? Oh, good. I found this sex addiction training
Right.
certification. That's me. It's like people are asking you, do you take
Yeah.
these kinds of clients? And it
Right.
just kept coming to find you, which I mean, of course, we can't explain why that happens, but I actually have a really similar experience myself where it's
Uh-huh.
just sort of my my specialty found me. But
So there had to be some openness on your part, especially when you shared kind of in passing that you'd been through your own like betrayal trauma and
Oh
how
yeah.
that so that's no small part of your story here, and saying like, I'm going to specialize in the thing that is at least in my history a significant pain point along the way, or I'm making the assumption there.
No, that's
So
the key part of the story, is that because of that, the maybe the darkest, worst part of my life, remembering what that experience was like and remembering how lonely it was, because sometimes, like, not only a person's best friend couldn't relate to them, or their family members couldn't relate to them, or their pastor couldn't relate to them, but even their therapist couldn't relate to them. Like, how lonely is that? That's the thing that probably is the most important part of the story, is what I went through. Not to say that everyone's betrayal story is the same, but there are elements that overlap, that develop a common language, and that is the thing that really connects, I think, for healing.
all of that makes sense to me, and I'm sure that even if your clients never heard an ounce of your own story, that connection and empathy and understanding comes through. It just has a way of getting communicated. It's so powerful. But I'm also thinking you had to have done a lot of your own work, right? To hear you're sharing like this is one of your maybe most significant pain points in your own
Yeah.
story. And now we're going to not only walk alongside people who've also been betrayed, maybe, but
Yeah.
like walk alongside folks who may be betraying their partner, or
Oh my
maybe
goodness.
engaged in some of the same things that you've experienced as the betrayed.
Yes.
I can't imagine, like, I wouldn't blame you if you just said that one's a little bit too close to home. We're just gonna, shelve that and work on something. I got this list of 6 other things that I'm interested in.
Exactly.
So let's just save that for. How did you come to the conclusion that this is worth leaning into? I imagine your own healing journey,
Yeah.
in order to also be able to serve folks going through similar things.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to talk about this. And you're right. When I was maybe, gosh, 1 to 2 years after the betrayal, um, I was still in grad school, and I remember uh, sharing with a colleague in my cohort. I don't know whether I can do marital therapy. Like, I don't know whether I can do couples therapy. It's just, I'm damaged goods. Like, what person is going to want to come to me, whose own marriage dissolved, and say, oh, I trust you to work with me on my marriage. It was very, very difficult in the beginning to deal with anyone that uh, remotely resembled, the kind of trauma that I experienced way back when. When I went through the CSAT training, a weird thing happened, Marie. What I realized was that even though I had never betrayed someone in the way that I was betrayed, um, I knew what it was like to have a sexual addiction. And sometimes sexual addiction leads to an affair, sometimes it doesn't. But it almost always leads to deception of some kind, whether you're lying about your porn habits, whether you're lying about, this and that. And um, maybe for the first time, I started having empathy for my betrayers.
Wow.
This is not like Stockholm syndrome, but this is more just like, um, I can finally kind of get it. I can kind of see how it happened. For me, I could differentiate myself between being a betrayer, but because I can relate to the addict, um, I found myself being able to take that one extra step and having empathy for the betrayer. And so now when I do take on clients who have the sex addiction going on, or the infidelity going on, or the betrayal trauma going on, I can speak their language fluently, and they know that um, that I have had experience in both camps, but rather than that being a sense of like sort of a threat to them, they actually see that as something comforting, because they want me to provide some insight on what the other person is thinking.
That is so powerful, right? Because it's so intertwined in your own healing process, but in such a healthy way, right? That you're not using your clients in order to heal yourself, but
No.
you're
Yeah.
embracing your own healing journey and then allowing that to inform and influence how much you're able to benefit the clients that you work with. And it just opens up the doors that maybe just, a decade ago, a client that would have been maybe too painful to work with is now the exact person I think I'm hearing you say that you're wanting to work with, to say, oh, I see you,
Yeah.
I get this, I can help you.
Yeah.
And that is a testament to just how much you've allowed yourself to lean into what I imagine has been hard, difficult, probably painful work. And that it's transformed into something different now.
Mhm.
That is so valuable. And not that everyone has to go through the same kind of pain point or trauma or whatever it might
Right.
be that their ideal clients have been through, but you have such a unique offering, because you have had some shared experience and you've allowed yourself to go through the healing journey. So it's a genuine, like, walking alongside before.
Right.
That's
I would not be able to
incredible.
do this work if I had not experienced my own healing from both ends. The recovery for the addiction side, and then the healing from the betrayal side.
I'm so glad you were willing to share such vulnerable parts of your story as well, to let that enter in here, because I think no matter what specialty or niches or whatever you want to call it are a
Mhm.
good fit for each person, there tends to be an internal wrestling of some sort
Of
that kind of
course.
comes through, whatever it looks
Mhm.
like. Well, that's such a wonderful journey. I wonder, is there anything else about your specialty that you want to share, your journey towards your specialty, if folks maybe are needing help figuring this out themselves?
I don't know if I could speak to any, therapists out there listening. I just feel like I think there's gonna be something out there, a particular niche that makes their heart feel a bit more alive, a bit more awakened than normal, and to pay attention to that. I would encourage any therapist to explore that more, just because it's uh, it is a difference maker in the way that you approach your daily work, and it's a difference maker for the client.
Absolutely. I love that feedback. And it does sort of feel like there's just this, it's not necessarily a step-by-step, like step one, do this, step two, do that. I mean, there's some of those tools like, okay, if you don't like working with a certain type of client, like, you don't have to. It's probably
Yeah.
better if you don't refer them out. So you can do that. But also, just organically, life will tell you what you love. I mean, I loved hearing your story just selfishly, but I'm so glad that I get to share this story with everyone else who can learn from your experience. And Roy and I were talking kind of offline before we started recording about how Roy is just so talented at just reducing and eliminating shame, no matter for what topic we're talking about. And certainly that's such a core component of your specialty, working with sex addiction and needing to release
Mm,
the shame that's there. But I mean, I think you're doing it also for therapists who
mm.
are watching and listening to this. So I'm really grateful for that. So thank you, Roy.
Oh, my pleasure.
Roy does a million things in life. He's got like 500 podcasts and launching all kinds of cool stuff. So, Roy, I wonder if you could share a little bit about where people can find you if they're interested in checking out your stuff or getting to know you a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. So The name of my practice is called New Legacy Counseling Services. I also, as you mentioned, I do some podcasts. One is called The Same Boat, and that is really more about stories of brokenness and authenticity and sometimes redemption. And I have a podcast that is geared towards sex addicts. It's called SA Speakeasy, SA standing for sex addiction. And I have a third podcast that's called New Therapist FAQ. And it's just for it's for new therapists who are wanting to listen through audio, some conversations between myself and other therapists. And we're just answering questions that new therapists submit to the website. And the new venture that I'm trying to do is called Pastoral Counseling Guild. Don't have a website for that yet. So this is just a way for me to help pastors acquire more tools, acquire more competence in the ways that they counsel, and also just to show them certain scenarios where it might be better for them to refer out to a qualified therapist who might meet their members' needs better.
I wasn't exaggerating when I said that Roy is doing a million things. Okay, not quite a million, but close. And you don't have to keep track of all those things. I've linked to all of them below. I've shared so many of his podcast episodes with my clients where it's like they're going through something that no one knows about, and then just say, "Oh, there's this podcast you might want to give a listen to," and they always find it so freeing and just supportive. So thank you, Roy, for putting all those resources out there. Thank you so much, Roy, for sharing your wisdom and just opening up so much too on this interview, just so that folks can learn and grow from you.
My pleasure.
Wasn't that just such an awesome interview? I mean, both chock full with really practical tools helping you know why and how to go about choosing a specialty, but also hopefully just doing a really good job of diffusing any shame that you might be feeling around your story or how that might influence how you feel as a therapist or what kind of specialty might make sense for you. And also the importance of doing our own work as therapists. I mean, that really was highlighted for me in this interview with Roy. Roy is so awesome. Obviously, you know that now after watching this interview, and he's all over the internet as we talked about. So I've linked to all the different ways he's out there in the world in the description box. So please feel free to check him out. All of his content is awesome. I'm not exaggerating. Just check it out. And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes.com for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes is a practice management system that covers literally everything you need to manage your practice, from scheduling to notes to billing. They also have a HIPAA secure telehealth platform, which is included within their EHR subscription at no extra cost. So it's also really affordable. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, thank you again so much to Roy Kim, licensed marriage and family therapist and certified sex addiction therapist, for joining me in this interview. Roy, you're amazing. I wish you all the best, and I'm sure you all watching have gleaned so much goodness from this interview. Let me know in the comments what the most helpful part of this interview was, or what your favorite part was. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well.